1737. Philadelphia. A man sits down to write a short note to his enemy. It is not an apology, it is not a gift, he concedes nothing. The note asks for a favor. You own a rare book, it says. I would very much like to read it. Would you lend it to me for a few days? The enemy sends the book immediately. A week later, it comes back with a second note, thanking him warmly. The two men had never spoken. At the next meeting of the Pennsylvania Assembly, the enemy walks over and speaks to him with great civility for the first time. They stayed friends until the other man's death. The borrower's name was Benjamin Franklin. Read the direction of that story carefully because it runs backwards. Franklin did not win his rival over by doing him a favor. He won him over by asking for one, a price somebody else pays for you. That is the claim this video is about. Asking someone for a small favor makes them like you more. It is called the Ben Franklin effect, and it is the opposite of what almost everybody expects. Franklin himself never claimed to have discovered it. He wrote that the episode proved, in his words, an old maxim he had learned. He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you yourself have obliged. Sit with that for a second. The most famous trick in the psychology of liking is named after a man who was quoting somebody else. For 50 years, the standard explanation has been a piece of mental bookkeeping called cognitive dissonance. The books do not balance. I did this man a favor, I do not like this man. Both of those cannot stay. The favor has already happened, so the feeling is the thing that moves. You must like him. Why else would you have helped? A second theory reaches the same place through a different door. Self-perception. It says you have no inside view of your own attitudes. You watch your own behavior and infer them, exactly the way a stranger watching you would. A stranger who saw you lend the book would conclude you liked the borrower. On this theory, so do you. Notice what both stories quietly agree on. The favor is the engine. The liking is produced by the act of helping. So here is a question worth keeping open. If the favor is the engine, helping should be enough on its own, asked or not asked. Keep that box empty. We are going to come back and fill it. One more detail from Philadelphia before the laboratory, because it is the part people skip. Franklin refused to chase his rival's approval. No flattery, no favors offered, in his words, no servile respect. The move that worked cost his rival something, and cost Franklin nothing but pride. Every instinct says that is the wrong way round. An anecdote is not evidence, and this one waited more than 2 centuries for a laboratory. In 1969, John Jecker and David Landy built an experiment shaped exactly like the story. 74 volunteers, as the study reports it, competed in an academic contest with real cash prizes for the winners. The experimenter running it played his part deliberately cold. The design needed a man who was easy to dislike. Then the winners were split 3 ways. One group was approached by the experimenter himself. He asked each winner, as a personal favor, to give the prize money back. He said he had been paying for the contest out of his own pocket, and his pocket was running dry. A second group was asked for the same money by an office assistant, on behalf of the department's budget. The third group simply kept their winnings, and nobody asked them for anything. Afterwards, every group rated the experimenter. For 2 of the 3, that meant rating the cold man who had just talked them out of their prize money. The group he had personally asked liked him the most. The people who handed their winnings back to that stranger rated him more warmly than the people he let keep the cash. Losing money to him made them like him more. The favor ran exactly the way Philadelphia said it would. Except in the middle group, where it did not run at all. Same money handed back. Same act of helping. The only change was the ask, routed through an assistant on behalf of an institution. No comparable effect. The favor without the personal request did nothing worth reporting. File that away. It is going to matter more than the headline. And the researchers were more careful with their conclusion than 50 years of retelling has been. Their sentence begins with a hedge. Under certain circumstances, when an individual performs a favor for another person, his liking for that person will increase. Under certain circumstances. That is not the sentence of 2 men who thought they had found a law. 2 years later, a second experiment checked the other end of the arrow. 24 subjects each ran a learning task with 2 partners, treating one kindly and one harshly, assigned at random rather than by chemistry. Afterwards, they liked the partner they had been kind to more, and the partner they had been harsh to less. The hypothesis, in the paper's own words, was confirmed. Whatever this arrow is, it points both ways. Treat someone badly, and you will start finding reasons they deserved it. Out in the world, you have already seen the shape. The colleague who asked you to look over a draft, and somehow became the colleague you rate. The neighbor who borrowed your ladder and turned into the neighbor you greet. The old advice that the best way to flatter someone is to ask for their advice. Every one of those is a person handing you a small cost, and your opinion of them rising while you pay it. Look once more at how strange the direction is. We spend enormous effort being useful to the people we want to like us. Favors offered, help volunteered, approval chased. The evidence so far is about the opposite move, and the opposite move keeps working. Now the part that almost never gets quoted, because it took until 2016 for someone to ask the obvious question. Every explanation so far says the favor is the engine. Yet in every study, the favor and the ask had always traveled together. Nobody had separated them. The psychologist Yu Niya ran the separation with both Japanese and American participants. Some people were directly asked for help by a partner in the study. Others ended up helping the same partner without ever being asked. Everyone's liking was measured against a baseline. The people who were asked liked their partner more. So far, Franklin. The people who helped without being asked, and this is the finding, did not. In the paper's words, there was no such increase when participants helped without receiving a direct request. Same favor. Same cost paid. No request, no effect. That breaks the engine. If liking were produced by the act of helping, then the act of helping would have produced it. It did not. The favor was never doing the work. Being asked was. So go back and fill the box from earlier, because the 1969 study had already told us, in the group everyone forgets. The assistant asked for the same favor and got nothing. Routed through a third party, on behalf of an institution, the ask stopped being an ask and became a transaction. Two studies, 50 years apart, agreeing on the same quiet sentence. It is not the favor. It is the request made directly by the person themselves. Niya's own reading of it borrows a Japanese word, Amae. A direct request is a small confession. It says, out loud, you have something I need, and I am willing to owe you. On this reading, you are not balancing mental books after helping. You are answering an offer of closeness, and liking the person is what accepting it feels like. Time for the ledger. This channel exists for. How much evidence is actually holding this famous thing up? 74 people in 1969. 24 in 1971. One smaller modern study in 2 cultures. The direction has repeated across 50 years and 2 continents, and that deserves respect. But the mechanism, the story about why, is genuinely unsettled. The version of this effect that sounds like settled science should be written in pencil, not ink. What survives is still useful, and it is sharper than the version you started with. Do not manufacture favors to farm affection. The evidence never blessed the favor. Ask for something real, small enough to grant, specific enough to mean something. And ask in person, yourself, because the moment the request is routed through someone else, the effect disappears. The 1969 middle group is the warning label. Delegate the ask, and you have deleted the effect. Then reread Philadelphia one last time, because the story was telling us this all along. The book was never the point. Franklin's rival did not warm to him because a book left his library. He warmed to him because of the note. A proud man had put it in writing that his enemy owned something he wanted. Franklin's own accounting was practical to the bone. It shows, he wrote, how much more profitable it is prudently to remove than to resent, return, and continue inimical proceedings. Everything this channel has drawn so far lives in the measured part of the mind. Numbers, prices, favors. Things a laboratory can count. The next video walks off that map, on purpose. There is a part of you that you keep off the record, the traits you deny the fastest, the reactions you explain away. Carl Jung named it a century ago, and drew the most famous map of the mind ever made without a laboratory. That is called the shadow, and it is next. If you want the rest of the map, subscribe. Everything on this channel gets drawn the same way. The claim in black, the evidence in orange, and a line through anything that does not hold up. This is educational content about research, not clinical or professional advice. Sources are in the description.